There are places on this earth that whisper secrets from the shadows of time, locations so mysterious, so utterly baffling, that even the brightest minds of our era can't fully unravel their stories. Imagine standing before colossal stone structures erected by ancient hands, their purpose lost to the ages, or wandering through abandoned cities where the echoes of forgotten civilizations linger in the air. These aren't just ruins, they're enigmas carved into the very fabric of our world, waiting for someone to decode their hidden messages. Today, we're setting off on a journey to 25 of the most extraordinary historical sites that continue to defy explanation, places where history and mystery collide in ways that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the past. For centuries, these locations have teased archaeologists, historians, and adventurers with their unanswered questions. Who built them? Why were they abandoned? And what untold stories lie buried beneath their crumbling walls? From the depths of dense jungles to the peaks of remote mountains, these sites hold clues to civilizations that flourished and vanished, leaving behind puzzles that challenge our understanding of human ingenuity. Some were hidden for millennia, swallowed by nature or erased from memory, only to resurface with even more questions than answers. Others stand in plain sight, their true significance obscured by myths and legends that blur the line between fact and folklore. This isn't just a tour of ancient ruins, it's an expedition into the unknown. Every stone, every carving, every silent corridor has a tale to tell, and together we'll piece together the fragments of these lost worlds. You'll discover underground cities carved with precision that seems impossible for their time, temples aligned with celestial events whose meanings we can only guess at, and islands shrouded in such myth that even modern science struggles to explain their origins. So, if you're ready to step into the footsteps of explorers who dared to seek the truth, to stare into the face of history's greatest riddles, then let's begin. The past is calling, and its mysteries are waiting to be uncovered. The legend of Atlantis has captivated imaginations for over 2,000 years, ever since the philosopher Plato first described it in his dialogues. According to his account, Atlantis was a powerful and advanced civilization that thrived 9,000 years before his time, a utopia of grand architecture and unparalleled naval might. But in a single day and night of catastrophe, the entire island was swallowed by the sea, vanishing without a trace. Plato's story wasn't just a myth, it was a warning about the dangers of hubris, etched into history with such vivid detail that scholars and adventurers have been searching for it ever since. But where could Atlantis really be? Some researchers point to the volcanic island of Santorini, where the devastating eruption around 1600 BC obliterated the Minoan civilization, leaving behind ruins that resemble Plato's descriptions. Others look to the Azores, where underwater rock formations off the coast of Portugal hint at a possible sunken city. Then there's the Richat structure in the Sahara, a strange circular formation so perfectly geometric that it sparked theories of a lost metropolis buried beneath the sands. In recent years, cutting-edge technology has only deepened the mystery. Sonar scans off the coast of Cuba revealed massive stone structures at depths that suggest they were above water thousands of years ago. Similar findings near Japan's Yonaguni Island show step-like pyramids submerged beneath the waves, their sharp angles and precise carving defying easy explanation. Could these be remnants of Atlantis or just tantalizing coincidences shaped by nature? The truth is, we may never know for certain. Atlantis exists in that haunting space between myth and history, a riddle that refuses to be solved. But that's the magic of it, the possibility that somewhere beneath the unexplored depths of the ocean lies evidence of a civilization so extraordinary, it reshapes everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. Now let's sail into one of the most infamous enigmas on the planet, the Bermuda Triangle. Stretching between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, this patch of ocean has been blamed for vanishing ships, disappearing planes, and unexplained phenomena for centuries. But how much of its dark reputation is fact, and how much is legend amplified by mystery? The stories are chilling. Take Flight 19, a squadron of 5 U.S. Navy bombers that vanished without a trace in December 1945 during a routine training mission. Radio transmissions from the pilots spoke of compasses spinning wildly and skies that didn't look right before static swallowed their voices forever. Even the rescue plane sent to find them disappeared, as if the triangle had swallowed it whole. Over the years, reports piled up cargo ships found adrift with no crew, aircraft dissolving from radar mid-flight, and bizarre accounts of time warps or strange lights flickering beneath the waves. Yet science offers its own explanations. Methane hydrates, pockets of gas trapped under the seafloor, could erupt and lower water density enough to sink ships without warning. Rogue waves, sudden walls of water towering over 100 feet, might snap vessels in half before they could send distress signals. Even the region's magnetic anomalies, which play havoc with navigation equipment, could send travelers fatally off course. And let's not forget human error. The triangle sits in heavily trafficked waters where storms brew without mercy, where a single miscalculation could turn deadly. But for those who dismiss earthly answers, the theories spiral into the extraordinary. Some claim the triangle hides a gateway to another dimension, a tier in reality where time and space twist unpredictably. Others point to underwater alien bases or remnants of Atlantis wielding ancient, forgotten technology. Even Edgar Cayce, the famed psychic, warned of a cursed fire crystal buried beneath the seabed, throwing off energy that disrupts the modern world. Whether you see it as a hotbed of supernatural activity or simply a stretch of unforgiving ocean, the Bermuda Triangle refuses to surrender its secrets. Maybe that's why it fascinates us, not because it defies explanation, but because it dares us to keep looking. After all, the greatest mysteries aren't just about answers. They're about the thrill of the unknown. High in the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca Lines stretch across nearly 200 square miles of desert like a colossal canvas etched into the earth itself. These enormous geoglyphs, some stretching over 1,200 feet long, depict everything from intricate geometric shapes to staggering depictions of animals, plants, and even humanoid figures. But here's what's truly mind-bending. These designs are so vast that they can only be fully appreciated from the air, raising the obvious question: how and why did a civilization over 2,000 years ago create art meant to be seen from a perspective they could never achieve? Theories about their purpose are as varied as the glyphs themselves. Some researchers argue the lines functioned as a sophisticated astronomical calendar, aligning with solstices and celestial events to track time for agriculture. Others propose they were sacred pathways walked during rituals to communicate with deities. Then there's the more controversial idea: could the Nazca have had help from above? The precision of the lines, some perfectly straight for miles despite the rugged terrain, has fueled speculation about ancient alien contact or lost technologies. After all, how could a culture without flight or modern tools design such flawless, gargantuan artwork? But the mystery doesn't end with their creation. The Nazca Lines have survived centuries without fading, thanks to a unique natural preservation system. The desert's windless climate and sun-baked soil act like a time capsule, preventing erosion. Even more baffling, the Nazca people themselves seemingly vanished without passing down the knowledge of these glyphs, leaving no written records or oral traditions to explain their work. Modern archaeologists have uncovered pottery and tools nearby, but the how and why remain locked in the past. Recent discoveries have only deepened the intrigue. Using drones and satellite imaging, researchers found dozens of previously unknown glyphs hidden beneath the sand, including a sprawling depiction of a cat nearly as long as a football field. Some even suggest the lines connect to underground water sources, turning the desert into a vast, coded map of hidden aquifers. Yet, for every answer technology provides, new questions emerge. The Nazca Lines aren't just art or science, they're a riddle carved into the planet itself, daring us to unravel their secrets, and maybe that's the point. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, they're meant to remind us how much we still have to learn. Rising from the grassy plains of Wiltshire, England, Stonehenge stands as one of history's most iconic and enduring puzzles. This ancient ring of towering stones, some weighing as much as 25 tons, has baffled experts for centuries. How did Neolithic people, over 5,000 years ago, transport these colossal slabs from quarries nearly 150 miles away without the wheel or advanced tools? The logistics alone seem impossible, yet here they stand, arranged with eerie precision. The monument's alignment with the solstices only deepens the intrigue. At dawn on the summer solstice, the rising sun pierces perfectly between the heel stone and slaughter stone, casting a beam of light into the heart of the circle. This wasn't accidental. Whoever built Stonehenge possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, using the stones as a celestial calendar to mark the changing seasons. But was it just a calendar or something more? Archaeologists have debated its purpose for generations. Some argue it was a sacred burial ground, pointing to human remains found nearby dating back to 3000 BC. Others believe it functioned as a healing center where the sick traveled to soak in the perceived power of the blue stones, thought to have mystical properties. Then there are theories of it being a site for ancient sound rituals. Experiments show the stones produce eerie acoustic echoes when struck, possibly used in ceremonies to commune with the spirit world. Recent discoveries have shattered old assumptions. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a hidden network of shrines, burial mounds, and even another massive stone circle just a mile away, dubbed Superhenge. These findings suggest Stonehenge wasn't isolated but part of a sprawling ritual complex, a Neolithic pilgrimage site drawing people from across the region. Even more astonishing, traces of feasts, animal bones, and pottery hint at grand gatherings where thousands celebrated together under the shadow of these stones. Yet for all we've uncovered, Stonehenge guards its secrets closely. No written records exist from its builders, leaving us to piece together its story through fragments in the earth. Each excavation raises new questions. Why were some stones brought from distant Wales? What compelled people to dedicate generations to its construction? The answers may lie buried, waiting for the next stroke of luck or technology to reveal them. Until then, Stonehenge remains a silent sentinel, its true purpose lost to the winds of time. Tucked away in the vaults of Yale University's Voynich Rare Book Library lies an object so perplexing that it's been called the world's most mysterious manuscript. The Voynich Manuscript, a 240-page tome filled with looping, alien script and bizarre illustrations of unidentifiable plants, celestial charts, and nude figures bathing in emerald green pools, has defied every attempt at translation for over 6 centuries. Its vellum pages, carbon-dated to the early 15th century, are covered in a language unlike anything else on Earth, a flowing cipher with no clear alphabet, grammar, or even a single decipherable word. The illustrations only deepen the enigma. One section bursts with botanical drawings of plants that don't match any known species, their roots twisting into unnatural spirals. Another features astrological diagrams of constellations unrecognizable to modern astronomy, alongside tiny, bewildered women floating in interconnected tubes of liquid. Then there's the biological section where hairless, swollen figures pose in what seems to be a medieval depiction of human anatomy, except nothing aligns with actual physiology. It's as if the artist was sketching life forms from another dimension. Cryptographers and linguists have thrown everything at this puzzle. World War II codebreakers, armed with techniques used to crack Nazi ciphers, walked away empty-handed. Statisticians analyzing word patterns found the text follows linguistic rules. It's not random gibberish, but the meaning remains locked away. Even artificial intelligence has joined the hunt. In 2019, a Canadian AI team claimed partial success, suggesting the text might be Hebrew encoded with an ancient algorithm. But their translation produced fragmented, surreal phrases like "she made recommendations to the priest" alongside nonsensical plant names. Critics dismissed it as another dead end. So who created this baffling artifact? Theories range from the plausible to the outlandish. Some scholars argue it's an elaborate Renaissance hoax, crafted to dupe a wealthy patron with a fake, ancient text. Others propose it's the work of a secretive alchemist, encoding forbidden knowledge in symbols to avoid persecution. Then there are the wilder ideas that it's a surviving fragment of a lost language, a message from extraterrestrials, or even evidence of a time traveler's failed attempt to document the future. The most chilling possibility, that the manuscript was never meant to be read by human eyes at all. What makes the Voynich Manuscript so endlessly fascinating isn't just its resistance to decoding. It's the tantalizing glimpse it offers into the limits of human understanding. Here's an object that has survived wars, fires, and centuries of scrutiny, yet refuses to yield its truth. Maybe that's the real lesson. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They exist to remind us that the past still has secrets we may never uncover, no matter how hard we try. The Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as the ultimate symbol of ancient ingenuity for millennia, but just when we think we've uncovered all its secrets, it throws us another curveball. In 2017, scientists made a jaw-dropping announcement. Scans using cutting-edge muon imaging technology revealed previously unknown voids hidden deep within the pyramid's massive stone layers. One cavity, dubbed the Big Void, stretches nearly 100 feet long above the Grand Gallery, while another lurks near the pyramid's north face. These aren't just cracks or gaps, their precise shapes and alignment suggest they were intentionally designed. The discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological world, because if these spaces were built on purpose, what were they meant to hold? Theories about their function spiral from the scholarly to the sensational. Some Egyptologists propose these chambers could be structural features, relieving pressure from the colossal weight of stone above. Others whisper of untapped treasure, perhaps the missing burial riches of Pharaoh Khufu, whose tomb has never been found inside his own pyramid. Then there's the wilder speculation. Could these voids hide lost knowledge, like sacred texts or even fragments of advanced technology? Ancient astronaut theorists point to the pyramid's near-perfect alignment with true north and its mind-boggling mathematical precision, suggesting these chambers might hold clues to forgotten sciences. But here's the twist. Egypt has been hesitant to explore further. Why? The risks are enormous. Drilling into these ancient stones could destabilize the pyramid's delicate balance, potentially causing irreversible damage. There's also the question of cultural preservation. Many believe disturbing these sacred spaces borders on sacrilege. Even non-invasive methods like tiny robotic cameras raise ethical dilemmas. When a similar void was explored in the neighboring Pyramid of Khafre in 1993, all researchers found was an empty shaft ending in a symbolic door. Was it a decoy or a warning against prying too deeply? Modern technology offers tantalizing possibilities. Muon imaging, which detects density changes by tracking cosmic rays, could map these voids in greater detail without physical intrusion. Thermal scans might reveal temperature variations hinting at hidden artifacts, yet every new scan seems to deepen the mystery. In 2020, researchers detected unusual heat signatures near the Big Void, sparking fresh debates. Are we looking at undiscovered chambers or something even stranger? The Great Pyramid's hidden spaces remind us that even our most iconic monuments still guard ancient secrets. Whether they're architectural quirks or intentional time capsules, one thing's certain: until we're willing or technologically able to peek inside, these voids will keep fueling our imagination. And maybe that's how it should be. Some doors are meant to stay closed, preserving the allure of the unknown for generations yet to come. For over 200 years, a small island off the coast of Nova Scotia has lured fortune seekers into a labyrinth of shafts, tunnels, and cryptic clues, all centered around a single, infamous hole in the ground known as the Oak Island Money Pit. The story begins in 1795, when a teenager named Daniel Maginnis stumbled upon a peculiar depression in the earth, its edges lined with old oak logs. Digging deeper, he hit layers of flagstones, charcoal, and even coconut fiber, materials utterly foreign to the region. Thus began one of history's most obsessive treasure hunts, a saga of flood tunnels, cryptic inscriptions, and staggering financial ruin for those who dared to chase its secrets. Theories about what lies buried here range from the plausible to the fantastical. Some believe it's the lost treasure of Captain Kidd, the notorious pirate who allegedly hid his plunder along the North American coastline. Others point to the Knights Templar, suggesting the pit safeguards sacred relics like the Ark of the Covenant or even the Holy Grail, smuggled out of Europe during the Middle Ages. Then there's the Shakespearean angle. Could this be the hiding place of original manuscripts, buried by loyalists to protect the playwright's true identity? The island's most tantalizing clue, that 90-foot stone, only deepened the mystery. Inscribed with symbols it was said to read, 40 feet below, £2 million lie buried. But like so much of Oak Island's lore, the stone vanished in the early 20th century, leaving behind only sketches and speculation. Nature itself seems to fight back against intruders. Excavations have been plagued by sudden floods, as if the pit were rigged with an ancient booby trap. 6 people have died in pursuit of its treasure, and countless investors have poured fortunes into digs that yielded little beyond rusted tools and bits of parchment. Modern technology has revealed tantalizing glimpses, wooden structures at staggering depths, traces of gold in soil samples, and even a centuries-old Roman sword pulled from a nearby swamp. Yet definitive proof remains elusive. Skeptics argue the money pit is nothing more than a natural sinkhole, its layers of debris left by glaciers or early industry. They point to similar formations across the region, shaped by erosion rather than human hands. But for true believers, Oak Island's enigma isn't just about gold or artifacts. It's about the thrill of the chase, the idea that somewhere beneath the mud and seawater, history's greatest treasure might still be waiting. After all, why would anyone go to such elaborate lengths to protect an empty hole? The answer, if it exists, is still out there, buried under centuries of dirt, doubt, and undying hope. Scattered across the rolling hills of northern Laos lies one of Southeast Asia's most haunting archaeological riddles, the Plain of Jars. Thousands of massive stone vessels, some towering over 9 feet tall and weighing several tons, dot the landscape like relics from a forgotten ritual. Carved from sandstone, granite, and even coral, these jars bear no inscriptions, no carvings, just silent, weathered surfaces pocked by centuries of rain and wind. Who placed them here? What purpose did they serve? The answers, much like the jars themselves, seem forever just out of reach. The leading theory suggests these vessels were part of an ancient burial practice. Excavations have uncovered human remains, burial goods like beads and iron tools, and even secondary jars filled with smaller bones, hints that the dead might have been exposed to the elements before being collected and stored. Some researchers propose the jars acted as decomposition vessels, holding bodies until only the bones remained, a tradition seen in other cultures across the region. But why the staggering scale? With clusters numbering in the hundreds across dozens of sites, the effort to quarry, carve, and transport these jars would have required a highly organized society, yet no evidence of their settlements has ever been found. Complicating the mystery is Laos's tragic modern history. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military dropped over 2 million tons of bombs on the country, leaving vast areas, including parts of the Plain of Jars, littered with unexploded ordnance. To this day, researchers must navigate active minefields just to study the jars, and many sites remain too dangerous to access. It's a cruel irony. The very conflict that brought global attention to this region also locked away its secrets beneath layers of unexploded debris. Local legends offer their own clues. Lao folklore speaks of a race of giants who once ruled the land, brewing rice wine in the jars to celebrate a great victory. Another tale describes a cruel king who ordered the jars filled with rainwater to quench his army's thirst, only to abandon them when the monsoons failed. While these stories may not hold scientific weight, they reflect the deep cultural weight these monuments carry, a testament to how thoroughly the jars have woven themselves into the identity of the land. Modern technology is slowly peeling back the layers. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed underground chambers near some jars, hinting at a complex funerary network. Chemical analysis of sediment inside the vessels has detected traces of organic compounds, possibly from long-vanished offerings or bodily fluids. Yet for every discovery, new questions arise. Why do some jars have lids while others sit open? Why are they clustered in such specific arrangements, often aligned with nearby mountain ranges or rivers? The Plain of Jars stands as a poignant reminder of how much history remains unwritten. Here, ancient customs collide with modern tragedy, and the earth itself guards its stories fiercely. Perhaps one day, when the last bomb is cleared and the final excavation begins, we'll uncover the truth behind these silent stone sentinels. Until then, they endure mysterious, majestic, and utterly mesmerizing. Beneath the turquoise waves off Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a structure so perplexing it has sparked debates that cut to the very heart of archaeology. Discovered in 1986 by a local diver, the Yonaguni monument stretches over 150 feet long, its terraced walls and sharp angles rising from the ocean floor like a sunken step pyramid. At first glance, it looks undeniably man-made, a series of perfect 90-degree corners, flat platforms, and even what appears to be a carved stairway leading to nothing. But here's where the mystery deepens. Geologists argue these features could be the work of natural forces, shaped over millennia by tectonic activity and ocean currents. So which is it, an ancient lost city swallowed by the sea, or just an incredible quirk of nature? The case for human construction is compelling. Marine archaeologists point to the monument's symmetrical terrace formations, which mirror known step pyramids from ancient cultures like the Maya or the Mesopotamians. There's even a distinct, isolated boulder nicknamed the Turtle, for its uncanny resemblance to carved animal monuments found in Okinawa's ruins. Proponents of this theory suggest the site could be linked to the legendary Mu civilization, a Pacific counterpart to Atlantis, said to have vanished beneath the waves 12,000 years ago. Stories of Mu describe an advanced society with sprawling cities, and if Yonaguni is its remnant, it would rewrite history as we know it, yet skeptics counter with science. Sandstone, the rock composing the monument, naturally fractures along straight lines due to seismic stress. The region sits in an earthquake-prone zone, and underwater surveys reveal similar formations nearby, just less striking. Even the carved features might be explained by marine erosion, with strong currents sculpting the stone into deceptive shapes. When researchers compared Yonaguni's angles to known man-made structures, some matched, but others deviated just enough to fuel doubt. Then there's the dating dilemma. If humans built this when sea levels here were last low enough to expose the site around 10,000 years ago, a time when mainstream archaeology insists humans lack the tools or organization for such a project. Yet fringe theorists argue that dating relies on incomplete models. What if an earlier, undocumented civilization thrived before being erased by rising waters? The debate rages on, but one thing's certain: Yonaguni captivates because it lives in the blur between known and unknown. Whether it's nature's masterpiece or humanity's forgotten legacy, this underwater enigma challenges us to question how much of the past still lies hidden beneath the waves and how much we're willing to reconsider. In the late 16th century, a group of English settlers landed on the shores of what is now North Carolina, establishing the ill-fated Roanoke Colony. Led by John White, these men, women, and children were meant to carve out a permanent foothold for England in the New World. But when White returned from a supply trip to England in 1590, he found the settlement deserted, no bodies, no signs of struggle, just the eerie word Croatoan carved into a wooden post and crow etched into a nearby tree. It was as if the entire colony had simply vanished into the mist, leaving behind one of America's oldest and most haunting mysteries. The Croatoan clue has fueled speculation for centuries. Some believe it pointed toward Croatoan Island, now known as Hatteras Island, where local Native American tribes may have absorbed the settlers. Archaeological digs there have unearthed fragments of European-style pottery alongside Algonquian artifacts, including a 16th-century signet ring that may have belonged to one of the colonists. Others argue the word was a distress signal, hinting at an attack or forced relocation by hostile groups. Then there's the darker theory that the settlers, desperate and starving, splintered into rival factions, leading to violence that erased all traces of their existence. Recent discoveries have added new layers to the puzzle. In 2020, researchers examining soil samples near Roanoke found evidence of a sudden, unexplained survivors' camp 50 miles inland, with pottery shards bearing strange markings, a mix of English letters and Algonquian symbols. Could this be proof of a scattered remnant trying to blend in with local tribes? Even more intriguing, a map from John White's own papers, hidden beneath a patch of correcting paint, reveals a cryptic symbol near the Chowan River, suggesting some colonists may have attempted to flee there. Yet despite these tantalizing clues, the fate of the lost colony remains shrouded in uncertainty. Local Lumbee oral traditions speak of ancestors with fair hair and blue eyes passed down through generations. But without definitive proof, a mass grave, a journal, or a smoking gun artifact, Roanoke's disappearance endures as a ghost story written in whispers and fragments. One thing's certain: this isn't just a historical cold case. It's a testament to how easily the past can dissolve, leaving behind riddles that tease us across the centuries. Far out in the Pacific, where the ocean's mood shifts from sapphire calm to crushing fury, lies a stretch of water so treacherous that Japan's own government has labeled it an official danger zone. The Devil's Sea, or Dragon's Triangle as locals call it, mirrors the Bermuda Triangle's infamy with its own roster of vanishings, unexplained phenomena, and whispered legends. Over the centuries, this cursed patch of ocean near Japan's Izu Islands has swallowed entire fleets, from ancient fishing boats to state-of-the-art research vessels, leaving behind not a single life raft or oil slick to hint at their fate. The parallels to the Bermuda Triangle are uncanny. In the 1950s alone, 5 Japanese military ships disappeared here without distress signals, along with over 700 crew members. A haunting echo of Flight 19, the tragedy prompted Tokyo to formally declare the region hazardous in 1952, a rare admission from authorities that some forces at sea defy rational explanation. Fishermen tell of compass needles spinning wildly, sudden fogs that blot out the sun in minutes, and strange electromagnetic disturbances that fry navigation equipment. Some even swear they've seen glowing spheres of light plunge beneath the waves, as if the ocean itself were breathing fire. Science offers a compelling, if unsettling, explanation. The Dragon's Triangle sits atop one of Earth's most volatile geological zones, where tectonic plates collide in a constant dance of destruction. Underwater volcanoes spew methane hydrates that could capsize ships by abruptly reducing water density, while hydrothermal vents belch superheated gases capable of triggering explosive eruptions. The region's infamous Kuroshio current adds to the chaos, whipping sudden whirlpools strong enough to drag vessels to the abyss. These natural forces create a perfect storm of danger, but do they account for every disappearance? Ancient folklore weaves a darker thread. Japanese legends speak of Ryujin, a dragon god who rules the ocean depths from a palace beneath the waves. Mariners who disrespect his domain, the stories warn, are swallowed whole as offerings. Even the name, Dragon's Triangle, stems from centuries-old scrolls describing serpentine shapes glimpsed in the water moments before ships vanished. Could these myths be distorted memories of real events, tsunamis triggered by undersea eruptions, or massive squid surfacing in the churn? Modern technology has only deepened the enigma. Sonar scans reveal jagged underwater peaks that weren't on maps a decade ago, proof of how rapidly the seabed here shifts. Satellite imagery captures bizarre circular waves with no apparent cause, some spanning miles across. The most chilling find, a series of stone monoliths resting on the ocean floor near Yonaguni, their geometric precision fueling theories of a sunken civilization swallowed by the god of the deep. Whether you see the Devil's Sea as a hotspot of natural chaos or something more sinister, its legacy is undeniable. Unlike the Bermuda Triangle, where skepticism runs high, Japan's official warnings lend sobering weight to the danger. Perhaps that's the real lesson some places on Earth refuse to be tamed, governed by forces we're only beginning to understand. The Dragon's Triangle doesn't just hide its victims. It keeps its secrets. Standing sentinel along the windswept coast of Easter Island, the Moai statues stare inland with hollow eyes, their massive stone faces carrying expressions frozen in time. These towering figures, some weighing over 80 tons and standing 33 feet tall, are more than just sculptures. They're the haunting legacy of the Rapa Nui people, a civilization that thrived in isolation before facing a collapse so dramatic it still echoes today. But how did a society with no metal tools or wheels carve nearly 900 of these monoliths from volcanic rock, then transport them miles across rugged terrain to their sacred platforms? The answer is a testament to human ingenuity and a warning about the cost of unchecked ambition. The process began at Roanoke, the island's volcanic quarry, where artisans chiseled the moai directly from the mountainside using nothing but basalt hand tools called toki. Finishing each statue took a team months, sometimes years, as they painstakingly etched details like elongated ears and strong brows features meant to honor ancestors and project mana or spiritual power. But the real marvel wasn't the carving, it was the transport. For decades, archaeologists puzzled over how these multi-ton giants crossed miles of uneven ground without toppling. Early theories suggested log rollers or wooden sledges, but in 2012, researchers tested a radical alternative. By rocking the statues side to side with ropes in a walking motion, teams could walk a replica moai forward, mimicking local oral traditions that claimed the statues moved themselves with divine help. Yet the statues tell only half the story. Easter Island's ecological collapse reads like a cautionary tale. Pollen studies reveal the island was once lush with palm forests, but as the Rapa Nui competed to erect ever larger moai, they deforested the land to transport them. With no trees to anchor the soil, crops failed and famine followed. By the time European explorers arrived in the 18th century, the society had fractured, statues toppled, clans warring over dwindling resources. Some scholars argue this wasn't just environmental mismanagement, but a cultural obsession gone too far, where the drive to build eclipsed survival itself. Enter Thor Heyerdahl, the Norwegian explorer whose controversial theories upended conventional wisdom. In the 1950s, he claimed the Rapa Nui couldn't have built the moai alone, pointing to similarities with South American stonework as evidence of pre-Columbian contact. His Kon-Tiki expedition, a balsa wood raft sailed from Peru to Polynesia, proved such voyages were possible, but DNA analysis later showed no genetic link between the Rapa Nui and indigenous South Americans. While Heyerdahl's ideas were debunked, they sparked a crucial debate. How much of history remains hidden beneath the biases of early researchers? Today, the Moai stand as silent witnesses to resilience and recklessness alike. Restoration projects have re-erected some statues, their backs to the sea as if guarding the island's fragile rebirth. But the lesson lingers in their stone gaze. We see the duality of human achievement, the line between reverence and ruin. The Rapa Nui didn't vanish, they adapted, learning too late that even the grandest monuments can't outlast the land that sustains them. Tucked between the rugged Aravalli hills of Rajasthan, the ruins of Bhangarh Fort stand as India's most infamous monument to the supernatural. By day, its crumbling palaces and temples draw curious tourists, but as the sun dips below the horizon, an eerie silence descends, and for good reason. The Archaeological Survey of India has posted an official notice at the entrance. Entering the fort after sunset is strictly prohibited. It's one of the few places in the world where a government has outright banned nighttime visits, all because of a 400-year-old curse said to cling to its weathered stones. The legend begins with a doomed love story. In the 17th century, Bhangarh was a flourishing kingdom ruled by Maharaja Madho Singh. His beautiful niece, Princess Ratnavati, caught the eye of a sinister tantric priest named Singhia, a practitioner of black magic obsessed with possessing her. When the princess rejected his advances, Singhia hatched a dark plan. He enchanted a vial of perfume, intending to make her fall under his spell the moment she applied it. But Ratnavati, warned by her attendants, tossed the vial onto a boulder. The cursed liquid ignited, rolling toward the sorcerer and engulfing him in flames. With his dying breath, Singhia cursed the entire kingdom, vowing that Bhangarh would perish and no soul who lived there would find peace in death. Within a year, the fort fell to invading forces, its inhabitants slaughtered. Locals say the princess and the sorcerer still wander the ruins, locked in an eternal struggle between light and darkness. Modern paranormal investigations have only fueled the mystery. Thermal imaging cameras have captured unexplained cold spots in the fort's central market square, where temperatures plummet without cause. EVP recordings reveal whispers in archaic dialects, some begging for help, others growling warnings. Visitors report being shoved by invisible hands, and photographers often find their equipment malfunctioning near the priest's ruined dwelling. Even skeptics admit the atmosphere shifts palpably at dusk, a heaviness in the air, an unnatural stillness broken only by the occasional howl of a stray dog, regarded in local lore as messengers of the dead. Science offers little comfort here. Geologists note the fort sits atop intersecting quartz veins, which some claim amplify spiritual energy. Historians point to the fort's violent history, not just the curse's alleged massacre, but repeated battles that soaked its soil in blood. Yet none of this explains the recurring sightings of shadowy figures in Mughal-era attire or the disembodied anklet bells heard near the princess's palace. Even the trees surrounding Bhangarh seem to defy nature, growing at sinister angles away from the fort, as if repelled by an unseen force. For the few who have dared to defy the ban, the consequences are said to be dire. Locals recount stories of journalists who camped overnight, only to be found gibbering incoherently by sunrise. Others simply vanish, their belongings left undisturbed. Whether you believe in curses or not, Bhangarh's power lies in its refusal to be explained. It's a place where history and horror intertwine, where every cracked pillar and empty corridor seems to whisper a warning. Some doors to the past should never be opened after dark. Rising from a rural Georgia field like a modern-day Stonehenge, the Georgia Guidestones stood as one of the most cryptic monuments of the 20th century until they became one of its most violently contested symbols. Erected in 1980 under a veil of secrecy, these 20-foot-tall granite slabs bore 10 commandments etched in 8 languages, offering eerie instructions for humanity's survival in an age of crisis. But who authored these directives, and why did this enigmatic structure spark such fury that it was reduced to rubble in a pre-dawn explosion 42 years later? The monument's origin story reads like a spy thriller. In 1979, a man using the pseudonym Robert C. Christian walked into a Georgia bank claiming to represent a small group of loyal Americans who sought to commission a sprawling stone monument. He provided detailed architectural plans, insisted on absolute anonymity, and paid the equivalent of over $500,000 today, all in cash. The stones were quarried from local granite, their surfaces polished to an eerie sheen, then arranged with astronomical precision. One slab featured a slot aligned with the solstice sunrise, while another had a hole drilled to frame the North Star. Most arresting, though, were the 10 guidelines carved into the rock, urging humanity to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, and to guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. To some, these words sounded like a blueprint for utopia. To others, they reeked of elitist depopulation fantasies. Historians still debate the true intent. Was this a warning about overpopulation, inspired by the environmental alarms of the 1970s, a cryptic manifesto from a secretive esoteric group, or merely an elaborate art project meant to provoke conversation? The stones' alignment with celestial events fueled theories linking them to Rosicrucianism or Freemasonry, while their multilingual inscriptions hinted at a globalist vision. But without Christian's real identity, a mystery guarded fiercely by the few who met him, every interpretation remained speculative. Controversy simmered for decades before boiling over. Conspiracy theorists branded the Guidestones the 10 Commandments of the Antichrist, arguing their call for population control echoed dystopian eugenics. Far-right extremists saw a shadowy elite's agenda carved in stone, while survivalists stockpiled supplies beneath the monument's looming shadow. Tensions reached a fever pitch during the pandemic as anti-vaccine protesters gathered at the site, decrying it as proof of a plot to cull humanity. Then, in July 2022, an explosion tore through the structure at 3 a.m., toppling one pillar and cracking others beyond repair. Authorities later demolished the remnants, citing safety concerns, but not before drone footage captured a message spray painted nearby: "No more globalists." Today, all that remains is a patch of scarred earth in Elbert County. Yet the Guidestones' legacy endures in polarized debates about free speech, conspiracy culture, and who gets to shape humanity's future. Whether you viewed them as a prophetic compass or a megalomaniac's manifesto, their destruction proved one thing: in an age of fracture, even stone isn't permanent. Some ideas are too volatile to withstand the weight of their own symbolism. Buried beneath the windswept hills of southeastern Turkey lies a discovery so revolutionary it shattered everything we thought we knew about human history. Göbekli Tepe, a vast complex of towering limestone pillars arranged in circular formations, predates Stonehenge by a staggering 6,000 years and the pyramids by 7. Built around 9,600 BC by hunter-gatherers, this site shouldn't exist. Its existence defies the long-held belief that complex society emerged only after agriculture, when humans settled down to farm. Göbekli Tepe turns that narrative upside down. Here, in a world before writing, before pottery, even before the wheel, people came together to erect a monument so sophisticated it still leaves archaeologists speechless. The scale is mind-bending. Each ring centers on 2 massive T-shaped pillars, some standing 16 feet tall and weighing up to 16 tons. Their surfaces ripple with intricate carvings of animals, scorpions, foxes, and birds frozen in motion, their details so precise they seem to breathe. But the real shock: there's no evidence of permanent dwellings nearby. No homes, no kitchens, no signs of daily life. This wasn't a village, it was something far more extraordinary. A sacred meeting place, a cathedral built by nomadic people who traveled vast distances to carve and worship here. The implications are staggering. What compelled these ancient hunters to dedicate generations to such a project? Were they drawn by ritual, by astronomy, or something we can't yet fathom? The mystery only deepens when you consider how Göbekli Tepe was used and then deliberately buried. Around 8000 BC, someone filled the entire complex with rubble, preserving it like a time capsule. Some researchers think this was a ritual act, a way to retire the sacred space. Others speculate it was hidden to protect it from invaders or natural disasters. But the most haunting theory that the site's builders knew their world was changing. As agriculture began to reshape humanity, Göbekli Tepe became a relic of the old ways, a monument to the nomadic spirit that once united them. Modern technology has peeled back layers of the enigma. Ground-penetrating radar reveals at least 20 more circles still unexcavated, hinting at a sprawling ritual landscape. Carvings of headless humans and predatory birds suggest mythologies lost to time, while the pillars' alignments with celestial events point to an advanced understanding of the stars. Yet for all we've uncovered, the biggest question lingers: did Göbekli Tepe spark civilization itself? Some scholars argue its construction required cooperation on an unprecedented scale, planting the seeds for cities and hierarchies. Others see it as proof that spirituality, not agriculture, was the true catalyst for human complexity. One thing's certain, this isn't just an archaeological site. It's a mirror held up to our origins, revealing how much we've underestimated our ancestors. These stones whisper a truth both humbling and exhilarating, that the human drive to create, to connect, to seek meaning in the cosmos is far older than we ever dreamed. And somewhere beneath those Turkish hills, the first chapters of our story still wait to be read. Deep in Russia's Ural Mountains, a tragedy unfolded under such bizarre circumstances that even seasoned investigators couldn't explain it without their hands shaking. In January 1959, 9 experienced hikers led by Igor Dyatlov set up camp on the eastern slope of Kolotsiak, a name that translates ominously to Mountain of the Dead. Days later, search teams found their tent ripped open from the inside, its inhabitants scattered across the frozen wilderness in states no one could comprehend. Some were barefoot, clad only in underwear, as if they'd fled in terror. Others had skulls crushed with inhuman force, ribs snapped like twigs, and one hiker was even missing her tongue. The Soviet Union hastily closed the case, blaming a compelling natural force, but the truth was far stranger than anyone dared admit. Theories about what happened that night spiral from plausible to paranormal. Early explanations pointed to an avalanche, suggesting the hikers cut their way out of the buried tent only to freeze in the -30-degree cold. Yet no avalanche debris was found, and the tent stood intact except for the slashed exit. Then came the radiation reports. Some clothing tested positive for trace radioactivity, fueling speculation about secret military tests or even UFO encounters. The area was notorious for strange lights in the sky. But the injuries defied logic. 2 victims had fatal chest trauma akin to a car crash, but no external wounds. Another's skull showed damage consistent with a pressure wave, like the kind caused by what? An explosion, an infrasound weapon. In 2019, Russia reopened the investigation, citing new evidence. What they uncovered only deepened the enigma. Modern avalanche simulations suggested a rare slab avalanche could have struck without leaving typical debris, triggered by katabatic winds roaring down the slopes. But that doesn't explain everything. Why were some victims' clothes found with elevated levels of radiation? Why did forensic experts note an orange tan on their skin, eerily similar to radiation burns? And what about the hikers' final camera photos, showing shadowy figures lurking near their camp in the hours before disaster? For decades, Dyatlov Pass has been a black hole of speculation. Some swear the hikers stumbled upon a covert missile test. Others whisper of Yeti attacks or even Soviet experiments in mind control. the truth might lie somewhere between a perfect storm of natural phenomena and human error. But one detail lingers longest: the diary found at the scene, its last entry scribbled in a trembling hand. From now on we know there are snowmen. Whether that was a joke, a delusion, or a final warning, we'll never know. The mountain keeps its secrets well. In the quiet town of Homestead, Florida, a strange and haunting monument stands as a testament to one man's impossible determination: the Coral Castle. Built entirely by hand by a single man, Edward Leedskalnin, this sprawling complex of massive coral blocks, some weighing as much as 30 tons, defies every law of physics and engineering. Leedskalnin, a 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant, claimed to have unlocked the secrets of the ancient Egyptian secrets that allowed him to manipulate multi-ton stones with nothing more than homemade tools and an enigmatic device he called his perpetual motion holder. How did he do it? To this day, no one knows for sure, and the mystery only deepens the more you learn. Edward's story begins with heartbreak. After being jilted by his teenage fiancée just days before their wedding, he fled to America, eventually settling in Florida. There, over 28 years, working mostly at night to avoid prying eyes, he single-handedly quarried, carved, and arranged over 1,000 tons of coral rock into an elaborate network of walls, tables, and even a functioning sundial accurate to within 2 minutes. Witnesses reported seeing him move the massive stones effortlessly, as if they weighed no more than pillows. When asked how he managed such feats, he'd only smile and say, "I understand the laws of weight and leverage." But those who pressed further were met with cryptic riddles about magnetism and the secrets of the pyramids. Theories about his methods range from the scientific to the supernatural. Some engineers suggest he might have used counterweight systems or clever pulley techniques, though no such equipment was ever found. Others point to his fascination with electromagnetism. Leedskalnin frequently claimed electricity was the key to his work, and his writings contain bizarre diagrams of magnetic currents he insisted could neutralize gravity. Then there are the wilder speculations that he tapped into lost anti-gravity technology, or even that he wielded some form of acoustic levitation, using sound frequencies to make the stones weightless. Skeptics argue he simply employed patience and basic physics, but that doesn't explain how he lifted a 9-ton gate so perfectly balanced a child could swing it open, a gate that decades later still moves without a hint of friction. Perhaps the most baffling clue lies in Coral Castle's very construction. When developers encroached on his original site in Florida City, Leedskalnin allegedly dismantled the entire structure and moved it 10 miles north to Homestead alone at night and without anyone ever seeing how. Even more eerie, he left behind no blueprints, no journals explaining his techniques, just a handful of cryptic pamphlets titled Magnetic Current that read more like alchemy than science. Edward took his secrets to the grave in 1951, leaving behind a monument that continues to stump experts and inspire dreamers. Coral Castle isn't just a tourist attraction, it's a riddle carved in stone, a love letter to the impossible, and a challenge to anyone who thinks they've got it all figured out. Whether it's a masterpiece of hidden physics or the work of a lone genius who rewrote the rules, one thing's certain: some mysteries refuse to be solved, and that's what makes them unforgettable. Perched high on the limestone cliffs of the Philippine Cordillera Mountains, the hanging coffins of Sagoda defy conventional burial traditions in a way that's as practical as it is profound. For over 2,000 years, the indigenous Igorot people have suspended their loved ones in hand-carved coffins along sheer rock faces, some clinging to cliff sides at dizzying heights, others tucked into crevices like offerings to the sky. This isn't just ancient history. To this day, elderly Igorot prepare their own coffins from hollowed logs, sanding and sealing them years in advance, a ritual as much about acceptance as it is about craftsmanship. But why risk such perilous burials when the ground below offers easier repose? The answers reveal a philosophy as deep as the ravines beneath those coffins. The Igorot believe elevation brings the departed closer to ancestral spirits, and suspending coffins protects them from floods, scavengers, and the disturbances of the living. Some coffins are so old they've fused with the cliffs, their wood mineralized into the stone itself. Yet the tradition's true brilliance lies in its physical demands. Coffins are hauled up using nothing but ropes, ladders, and communal effort, a final act of unity that binds the village together. Witnessing the ritual is haunting. Mourners balance on precarious ledges, maneuvering coffins into cracks so narrow it seems impossible, all while the deceased's family watches from below. It's a stark contrast to modern Western burials where convenience often overshadows ceremony. What's most striking isn't just the how, but the when. Elderly Igorot choose their coffin's location years before death, sometimes even testing their fit inside it. Far from macabre, this practice embodies a rare intimacy with mortality. In Sagada, death isn't hidden away, it's woven into daily life. Locals picnic near cliffside coffins, children play beneath them, and tourists hike past them on jungle trails. The coffins aren't relics, they're neighbors. Modern pressures threaten the tradition. Younger generations, lured by city jobs, often opt for conventional graves. Yet a handful of elders still cling to the old ways, carving their coffins with symbols of their lives. Farmers etch rice stalks, hunters carve spears. One artisan in his 80s, Mang Victor, recently showed visitors his nearly finished coffin, its interior polished smooth from years of rubbing with resin. "When my time comes," he said, patting the wood like an old friend, "I'll sleep where the wind sings." In Sagada, death isn't an end, it's a continuation, a body returning to the landscape in the most literal sense. And as long as the cliffs stand, those coffins will hover between earth and sky, silent witnesses to a culture that refuses to let go. Beneath the waves of India's Gulf of Cambay lies a discovery that blurs the line between myth and reality: the sunken ruins of Dwarka. According to ancient Hindu texts, this was the legendary city of Lord Krishna, a thriving metropolis adorned with gold and jewels until the sea swallowed it whole after his death. For centuries, scholars dismissed Dwarka as mere folklore, until marine archaeologists stumbled upon stone structures, pottery fragments, and even human remains submerged over 100 feet underwater, dating back at least 9,000 years. The sheer scale of these ruins suggests a sophisticated, organized society, one that matches descriptions in the Mahabharata down to startling details like the city's layout and its sudden, catastrophic demise. Divers have recovered artifacts that defy conventional timelines, including a carved stone slab bearing a script still undeciphered, and pottery with designs unlike anything from known ancient civilizations in the region. Even more compelling, the ruins align with sacred texts that describe Dwarka's three-tiered fortifications and its position near the confluence of rivers, features now confirmed by sonar mapping. But the real bombshell came in 2001 when carbon dating of wood samples from the site placed them around 7500 BC, a time when mainstream archaeology insists such advanced urban centers couldn't have existed. Skeptics argue the structures might be natural formations or remnants of a later, smaller settlement, yet the evidence piles up. Geological studies reveal seismic shifts that could have triggered sudden subsidence, mirroring the Mahabharata's account of the city's inundation. Local fishermen have long reported odd shadows beneath the water, whispering of Krishna's lost pillars. And in 2022, a team using sub-bottom profiling identified what appears to be a massive stone wharf, exactly where the text said it would be. The implications are staggering. If Dwarka is real, it rewrites the history of human civilization, proving that complex societies flourished millennia earlier than we thought. But perhaps the most haunting question isn't whether the city existed, it's how the ancients knew its story would survive beneath the sea, waiting for us to find it. Every artifact pulled from those depths feels like a message in a bottle, a whisper from a past we're only beginning to understand. Buried in the backrooms of the University of Michigan's archaeology collection lies a set of objects so perplexing they've been called the most audacious forgery in American history, or perhaps just maybe the most misunderstood evidence of ancient transoceanic contact. The Michigan relics, a cache of over 800 lead and clay tablets inscribed with crude Hebrew, Egyptian, and cuneiform-like symbols, surfaced in the late 19th century, allegedly unearthed by farmers plowing their fields. At first glance, they seem to rewrite history, depicting biblical scenes, strange deities, and inscriptions suggesting Middle Eastern travelers had reached North America long before Columbus. But the truth behind these relics is a tangled web of faith, fraud, and fervent belief that still sparks debate today. The artifacts first gained attention through James Scotford, a charismatic digger who claimed to discover them across Michigan in the 1880s. Local newspapers breathlessly reported each new find, describing tablets stamped with images of pyramids, bearded prophets, and even what appeared to be a crucified figure centuries before Christianity reached the New World. Mormon communities, in particular, seized on the relics as potential proof of the Book of Mormon's narrative, which describes ancient Israelites migrating to the Americas. For a time, the relics toured as sacred curiosities, drawing crowds eager to glimpse what some called America's Rosetta Stone. Skeptics, however, quickly spotted glaring red flags. The inscriptions mixed languages haphazardly, with Hebrew letters flipped backward and Egyptian hieroglyphs arranged nonsensically. Geologists noted the lead showed no signs of aging, its surface suspiciously fresh despite supposedly being centuries old. Then there was Scotford himself, a known treasure hunter with a flair for theatrics, who just happened to find relics whenever an audience was present. By the early 20th century, most archaeologists dismissed the collection as an elaborate hoax, possibly orchestrated to exploit religious zeal or stir local pride. But the story doesn't end there. A small but vocal group of researchers insist some relics might be genuine, pointing to anomalies that defy easy dismissal. A handful of tablets were discovered by unrelated individuals miles apart, with no clear motive for fraud. Some symbols resemble those found in rare Phoenician artifacts, a seafaring culture known for distant voyages. Even more intriguing, a few relics were unearthed from deep clay layers, suggesting they weren't simply planted in modern times. Could a fraction of the collection be legitimate, later drowned out by a flood of fakes? The relic's legacy is a cautionary tale about the intersection of archaeology and ideology. Forged or not, they reveal how desperately people long to connect their land to ancient grandeur, to feel part of a story bigger than themselves. Today, the Michigan relics gather dust in storage, labeled as curiosities rather than history. Yet they linger as a reminder that some mysteries aren't about truth or lies, they're about what we're willing to believe and why. In the end, the most fascinating artifact might be the human need to find meaning, even in lead and lies. In the quiet countryside of Zhejiang Province, China, a farmer's routine well digging in 1992 unearthed something extraordinary: not water, but the entrance to a vast man-made cavern that would soon reveal itself as part of a labyrinthine complex known as the Longyu Caves. Stretching over 30,000 square meters, these hand-carved chambers defy logic. Their walls, ceilings, and pillars are cut with such geometric precision, every angle sharp, every surface smooth, that they look like the work of machines, not ancient tools. Yet carbon dating places their creation over 2,000 years ago, during a time when historical records mention nothing about such a monumental project. Who built these caves? More puzzling, why would a civilization invest decades of labor into hollowing out an entire mountainside, only to abandon it without a single trace of their purpose? Step inside and the enigma deepens. The walls ripple with uniform chisel marks, each groove spaced identically, suggesting a level of craftsmanship and coordination that rivals the pyramids. But unlike Egypt's monuments, there are no hieroglyphs, no murals, no artifacts. just eerie, empty halls echoing with strange acoustic properties. Clap your hands in certain chambers, and the sound reverberates in haunting, musical tones as if the caves were tuned like instruments. Some researchers believe this was intentional, theorizing the spaces might have been used for rituals or ceremonies where sound played a mystical role. Others point to the ceilings, which slope at exact 7-degree angles, a design that mimics natural formations known to amplify whispers across long distances. Was this a secret meeting place, a repository for lost knowledge, or something even more otherworldly? The absence of debris is another maddening clue. Unlike other ancient quarries where rubble piles betray extraction methods, the Longyu Caves show no signs of discarded stone. Every inch of excavated rock, an estimated 1 million cubic meters, vanished without a trace. Local legends speak of a hidden underground river used to transport the stone, but no such waterway has been found. Even more baffling, the caves align with celestial events. During the winter solstice, sunlight pierces specific passageways, illuminating carved niches that might have held ceremonial objects. Yet without written records, these alignments remain educated guesses at best. Modern attempts to recreate the construction only heighten the mystery. Engineers using contemporary tools struggled to replicate the cave's precision, estimating it would take a workforce of thousands working non-stop for 6 years to complete just one chamber. How did an ancient society manage this without leaving behind tools, camps, or even a single mention in their annals? Some theorists propose the caves were a clandestine project of the Qin dynasty, carved by conscripted laborers who were later silenced. Others float wilder ideas: extraterrestrial intervention, lost technologies, or even a civilization far older than we've dared to imagine. Today, the Longyu Caves sit in uneasy silence, their arched doorways guarding secrets as stubbornly as the day they were found. They challenge our assumptions about ancient capabilities, hinting at a chapter of human history we've either forgotten or were never meant to know. Perhaps that's their true purpose, not to answer our questions, but to remind us how much of the past still lies beyond our grasp, waiting in the dark. Locked away in the vaults of Turin Cathedral lies a piece of linen that has sparked debate for centuries: the Shroud of Turin, believed by millions to be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. Measuring 14 feet long, this fragile textile bears the faint, haunting imprint of a crucified man, complete with wounds matching biblical accounts of the crucifixion. But is this truly a divine relic or an elaborate medieval forgery? The evidence teeters between faith and science, with discoveries over the years only deepening the mystery rather than resolving it. Carbon dating conducted in 1988 seemed to deliver a definitive blow to the shroud's authenticity. Tests at 3 independent laboratories dated the cloth to between 1260 and 1390, squarely in the Middle Ages, when religious forgeries proliferated. Yet almost immediately, critics pointed to flaws in the methodology. The sample tested came from a corner of the shroud that had been repaired after a fire in the 1500s, potentially skewing results. Later studies revealed fungal and bacterial contamination on the fibers, which could have altered the carbon signature. Some researchers even argue that the unique chemical properties of the image itself, created by a still unknown process that only scorched the outermost fibers, might have interfered with accurate dating. Then there's the image itself, a puzzle no one has been able to fully replicate. Unlike any painting or stain, the shroud's markings behave like a photographic negative, a concept non-existent in medieval art. When photographed in 1898, the negative plate revealed a startlingly detailed positive image, with 3-dimensional data embedded in the shading. Modern 3D imaging software confirmed this, showing that the variations in the image's intensity correspond to exact distances between the cloth and a human body. No known medieval technique could achieve this effect, leading some scientists to propose the image was formed by a burst of radiant energy, as if the cloth had been exposed to a momentary flash of light. The Vatican's stance adds another layer of intrigue. While never officially declaring the shroud authentic, the Catholic Church has treated it with reverence, allowing rare public viewings that draw millions of pilgrims. Pope John Paul II called it a mirror of the gospel, emphasizing its spiritual significance over scientific debate. In 2015, Pope Francis venerated the shroud in a televised ceremony, calling it an icon of love, a carefully chosen phrase that sidestepped claims of divine origin while acknowledging its power to inspire faith. What makes the shroud so compelling isn't just the evidence for or against it, but the way it straddles two worlds. For believers, it's a tangible connection to the divine. For skeptics, it's a testament to human ingenuity, or perhaps our desperation to touch the sacred. Whether it's a medieval masterpiece or something beyond explanation, the Shroud of Turin refuses to surrender its secrets, leaving us to wrestle with the oldest question of all: where does history end and mystery begin? In a dimly lit corner of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, a scrap of parchment from 1513 holds a secret that shouldn't exist: the Piri Reis Map. Named after the Ottoman admiral who crafted it, this fragment of a larger world chart doesn't just depict familiar coastlines of Europe and Africa. It shows something impossible: the northern coastline of Antarctica free of ice. That's right, a landmass buried under miles of glaciers today, rendered with shocking accuracy 3 centuries before its official discovery. How could a 16th century cartographer have known what lay at the bottom of the world? The answer might rewrite everything we thought we knew about ancient exploration. Piri Reis himself left clues in the map's margins, admitting he pieced it together from older sources, some dating back to Alexander the Great's era. He mentions consulting charts drawn by infidel navigators, possibly referencing lost Portuguese, Arabic, or even Phoenician voyages. But here's where it gets eerie. Modern sonar surveys of Antarctica's subsurface topography reveal landforms beneath the ice that match the map's contours with uncanny precision. The problem: Antarctica hasn't been ice-free for at least 6 million years, unless somehow an advanced civilization had mapped it before the deep freeze, passing that knowledge down through fragmented sources until it landed in Piri Reis' hands. Skeptics counter that the map's Antarctica might actually be a distorted South America, a common error in early cartography where coastlines were often misaligned. They point to the map's inclusion of mythical creatures and fantastical elements as proof it's more artistic than scientific. Yet even this theory stumbles when you examine the details. The map plots mountain ranges, inland features invisible to coastal explorers, and places them roughly where modern satellites detect subglacial peaks like the Gambatsev Mountains. Could these just be lucky guesses, or is there a lost chapter of human history we've yet to uncover? The plot thickens when you consider the tools available in 1513. Without chronometers to calculate longitude, precise mapping of distant continents was nearly impossible. Yet the Piri Reis map uses a spherical projection so advanced, some argue it rivals 19th century techniques. Admiral Reis claimed his work incorporated the maps of 20 nations, hinting at a global network of forgotten knowledge. Were the ancients more interconnected than we realized? Did they possess navigational technologies lost to time, like the mythical Antikythera mechanism but for cartography? Mainstream historians urge caution, noting that correlations between the map and Antarctica's bedrock could be coincidence. They emphasize that Reis was a master synthesizer, blending real charts with speculative geography common in his era. But then there's the case of the Orontius Phineus map created in 1531, which also depicts an ice-free Antarctica with rivers and bays, features impossible to infer without direct observation. Two maps decades apart, both hinting at the same unimaginable truth. Perhaps the most haunting possibility is that these charts preserve traces of a pre-Diluvian world, a time when Antarctica was habitable and human eyes saw its shores firsthand. Plato's tales of Atlantis speak of a cataclysmic flood 12,000 years ago, around the last time parts of Antarctica might have been temperate. Could survivors of that disaster have carried their knowledge northward, seeding myths and maps that lingered in fragments until men like Piri Reis stitched them back together? The map's true power lies in what it represents, not just ink on parchment, but a doorway to questions we're still afraid to ask. Every contour, every annotation whispers of missing links in our understanding. Whether it's proof of ancient high-tech, a mosaic of half-remembered voyages, or simply the most extraordinary coincidence in cartographic history, one thing's certain: the Piri Reis Map refuses to let us settle for easy answers. Somewhere between its faded lines, the past is still daring us to look deeper. Rising like a mirage from the savanna of southern Africa, the great Zimbabwe ruins stand as one of the continent's most breathtaking and misunderstood marvels. Towering stone walls, some reaching 30 feet high, curve in elegant mortar-free arcs, an architectural feat so advanced that European colonists refused to believe Africans built it. For centuries, outsiders insisted Phoenicians, Arabs, even King Solomon's miners must have been responsible, their racism blinding them to the ingenuity of the Shona people who actually carved this kingdom from the wilderness. But the truth is far more fascinating than any colonial myth. At its peak around the 13th century, Great Zimbabwe was the heart of a gold-trading empire stretching to the coasts of the Indian Ocean. Artifacts found here, Chinese porcelain, Persian glass, and Arab coins, tell the story of a bustling metropolis connected to distant worlds. The city's very name comes from Dizimba Mabwe, Shona for houses of stone, a modest description for structures that demonstrate astonishing precision. The walls, assembled from precisely cut granite blocks, fit so tightly that not even a knife blade can slide between them. No mortar was needed. The builders understood the stability of gravity and balance, crafting curves that have withstood earthquakes and centuries of erosion. The most iconic structure, the Great Enclosure, is a labyrinth of walls enclosing a space larger than a modern football field. Its centerpiece, a conical tower whose purpose still eludes archaeologists. Some believe it stored grain, others argue it symbolized royal authority, and a few whisper it was an astronomical observatory, its alignment tracking the movements of stars critical to agricultural cycles. Nearby, the hill complex overlooks the valley like a sentinel, its strategic position suggesting it was both a royal residence and a fortress, but the real shock lies in the ruins' sheer scale. At its height, Great Zimbabwe housed up to 18,000 people, a population rivaling medieval London, with advanced water management systems and a thriving artisan class producing intricate gold jewelry and soapstone carvings of the fish eagle, a symbol still revered in Zimbabwe today. Colonial denial of this sophistication reached absurd extremes. In the early 20th century, British archaeologist Gertrude Catton Thompson was mocked for daring to suggest Africans built the city despite overwhelming evidence. Treasure hunters dynamited parts of the ruins searching for King Solomon's mines, destroying priceless context. Even today, some fringe theorists cling to discredited ideas about foreign builders, ignoring the oral histories and carbon dating that place the Shona at the heart of this achievement. The greatest tragedy isn't just the theft of credit, it's the erasure of a narrative that reshapes how we see African history. Great Zimbabwe wasn't an isolated wonder. It was part of a network of stone-built cities across southern Africa, from Mapungubwe to Kami. Its decline in the 15th century likely came from environmental strain, deforestation, and overgrazing, a cautionary tale about sustainability that echoes our own times. Now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the ruins whisper a truth colonialism tried to silence. Africa's past is as layered, as innovative, as awe-inspiring as any ancient civilization. The stones don't just hold history, they hold a challenge to see beyond prejudice and recognize greatness where others refuse to look. In the vast, lifeless expanse of Turkmenistan's Karakum Desert, a gaping maw of fire burns ceaselessly, casting an eerie glow against the night sky, a place locals call the door to hell. This is the Darvaza gas crater, a fiery pit nearly 200 feet wide where flames have roared unchecked for over 5 decades. The story of how this inferno came to be is a bizarre blend of Soviet ambition, geological misfortune, and a mistake so colossal it turned a remote desert into one of Earth's most surreal landscapes. The year was 1971. Soviet geologists drilling for natural gas stumbled upon a cavernous pocket of methane. The ground beneath their rig collapsed, swallowing equipment and leaving behind a gaping crater. Fearing the uncontrolled release of toxic gases, they made a fateful decision: set it on fire. They assumed the burn would last a few weeks. Instead, the flames have raged for generations, fueled by an endless supply of natural gas seeping from the Earth's depths. What began as an accident became an unintended monument to human miscalculation, a blazing scar on the planet that refuses to heal. Scientists have repeatedly tried and failed to extinguish the crater. In 2010, Turkmenistan's president ordered experts to find a solution, hoping to reclaim the lost energy reserves. Teams proposed smothering the flames with sand or water, but the sheer volume of gas made these efforts futile. Even more puzzling, the crater's heat has created its own microclimate, with strange microbial life thriving in the superheated soil organisms that could hold clues to how life might survive on other planets. Yet perhaps the most haunting aspect of the door to hell isn't its flames, but its symbolism. It's a stark reminder of humanity's power to alter the planet irreversibly, often with unintended consequences. Visitors who trek across the desert to witness it describe an almost hypnotic pull. The way the flames dance against the barren landscape, both beautiful and apocalyptic. Some even brave the heat to stand at the crater's edge, peering into the abyss as if searching for answers in the fire. Will the flames ever burn out? Geologists estimate the gas reserves could last centuries, meaning this accidental inferno might outlive us all. For now, the door to hell remains open, a blazing question mark on the map, challenging us to reckon with the fine line between discovery and destruction. From the sunken ruins of Dwarka to the fire-scarred depths of Turkmenistan's door to hell, these 25 locations stand as silent witnesses to humanity's unquenchable thirst for discovery. Each one whispers a tantalizing question: how and why, yet refuses to surrender its secrets. Whether it's the precision of Göbekli Tepe's pillars, carved by hands that predated civilization itself, or the eerie vanishing act of the Roanoke colonists, these mysteries remind us that history isn't just a record of what we know. It's a frontier of what we've yet to uncover. What drives us to keep searching? Perhaps it's the thrill of the unknown, the possibility that one breakthrough could rewrite everything we thought we understood. Or maybe it's something deeper, a longing to connect with those who came before us, to hear their stories echoed in stone, ink, and earth. The Dyatlov Pass incident chills us not just because of its unanswered questions, but because it reminds us how quickly certainty can dissolve into chaos. The Voynich Manuscript taunts us not just with its unreadable text, but with the humbling truth that some knowledge might be forever out of reach. Yet even in the face of the unsolvable, we keep digging, scanning, and theorizing. Coral castles, levitating stones, and the Nazca Lines' aerial artistry challenge us to reconsider the limits of ancient ingenuity. The Shroud of Turin and Piri Reis Map blur the line between artifact and enigma, demanding we question not just what they are, but how they came to be. And who could forget Oak Island's money pit, a riddle that has bankrupted fortunes and claimed lives, yet still lures treasure hunters with the promise of a payoff just one shovel strike away. These places aren't just dots on a map, they're invitations. Invitations to wonder, to debate, and sometimes to accept that mystery itself is part of their power. So tell us in the comments which of these locations captivates you the most. Is it the astronomical genius of Stonehenge's builders or the haunting curse of Bhangarh Fort, the underwater labyrinth of Yonaguni or the coded whispers of the Georgia Guidestones before their fall? If uncovering history's greatest puzzles fuels your curiosity as much as ours, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're just getting started because the past is vast and every answer leads to 10 new questions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, the world's greatest stories aren't just in the history books. They're buried beneath our feet, hidden in plain sight, and waiting for someone bold enough to seek them out.